Hi and welcome to RCKicks. On today's show where we're looking at 10 RC products from 2022 that have surpassed my expectations that I've got on the show, and I've gone, actually this is way better than I expected. So we're going to go through each one individually and I'm going to explain why they're on my list and why I think they are better than expected. Right. Number one. So first on the list is this, the Tamiya Lancia O37. Now this is still available. You can buy it. It's under kit 58654. Now you're looking at about £189. So the first thing about this is the price for what you get. Actually, I think it's good value for money. Now the reason I say that is it's a hard body. You've got wind mirrors, you've got window wipers, you've got front spotlights that are separate, you've got light buckets so you can put lights in the front and the rear, you've got a driver cockpit, you get a motor. That's a lot. I've seen a lot of kits that are the same sort of price that don't come even close to that. And the actual body is done brilliantly. It's actually off the original cast from the kooky original one, and they've just modified it so the detail is there, and it is a highly detailed kit. The second aspect of it, which is why I wasn't overly sold on it in the first place, is I'm a big fan of the original one. So when I saw this, I was like, well, I prefer the kooky original one, so my expectations went down. Now, I'm not a fan of these wheels. I just don't like them, and I'll probably end up swapping them out personally. So that's kind of what put me off. But when you put it all together, I think it's great value for money. Also, the chassis you get, this is a TA02S chassis, so you're not just getting a boring chassis either. So you're getting an exciting chassis to build that's interesting. You've got a hard body, loads of detail, all the cockpits are paint up, and you get a motor. It just turns out to be a much better package than I expected, and value for money is there. So I can definitely recommend going this way and painting up a hard body. Also, it's a little bit different if you've done a lot of polycarbonate bodies. Jump into a hard body is really nice, and the decals are a challenge, but they're not crazy difficult. So that's my number one. Let's move on to number two. Number two is this, the Tamiya just released Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution. Now I know some of you are going to cry, yeah, but it's on a TT02. Why do I think that this is better? You say that the chassis is rubbish. I will clear this up once and for all. TT02 is not a rubbish chassis, it's a brilliant entry-level chassis. For me, I've built so many of them, I find them a bit boring. Not rubbish, boring. So, for the record, I think they're a great chassis if you're starting out. They're easy to work on. They're great if you're going to go stock racing with it. The modifications are really easy. There's tons of optional parts and you can go as crazy as you like with it. You can put oil diffs, loads of aluminium all over it, all that kind of stuff. And you've got tons of bodies to choose from. It's just I find it a bit boring. Right, we clear that up. Okay, this. Now, the reason that I think this is brilliant is it's balanced. Not only if you're starting out, you can get a TT02 chassis, which is very simple and easy to build, but this body is very easy to work with. The arches are cut out for you, and odds on you're probably only going to paint it up with one colour. So that's one tin of paint pretty much, and you don't have to mask up that much at all. You get your window masks, you slap them in, you blow it over just like I have here. And the other aspect of it is it looks brilliant in a road car, and it looks fantastic as a rally. So if you have more experience with them and you want to go to a higher level, this body can look amazing in lots of different genres. So you can keep it simple, just spray it like red, keep it as a road car, and it looks brilliant. Put extra stickers on it and lots of more detail, change the wheels like I have, and you've got yourself a beautiful rally looking car. So that's why, for me, not only is it great value, it's really easy for a beginner that can have a car that still looks brilliant, even if your painting skills are not that great. But as someone who is in the hobby more, this body set is beautiful. Now, obviously, if you're in the hobby quite well, you could just buy the body set instead of buying the chassis alone. But as a package, and you're looking at price-wise, is £129 in the UK, you can't really go wrong with it. Right, moving on to number three. Number three on the list is this, the GeForce Genova with Masami sprinkled all over it. I have to say, a big fan of this. My expectations were, I wasn't sure it was going to be any good. The only reason I got it was because Masami was connected to it, so I kind of thought it can't be terrible, can it? It can't be a total sellout. but I have to say it is beautiful looking. The body idea, I mean, there is a cheaper version of this available where it was done with different plastics, different body and bushes, and there's a few other bits and pieces. So Masami, I'm guessing, is who got involved to change to the body, because it looks very vintage. It is beautiful looking, but the plastic quality is what really excels it. Now this comes as a kind of half-built kit, so putting it together is super easy, even though the manual's in Japanese. Don't let that put you off. Now hopefully the sales of this have gone well and they're going to start distributing it in other countries, because my only caveat is if you're going to run this in anger and you break it, getting replacement parts are going to be a little bit of a challenge. Now you can get this from Amazon Japan and you pay for the import up front, which is really nice, so there's no handling fee, which is another sort of 15 quid slapped on for no reason whatsoever. So you do save a bit from that. Now you are paying a little bit of a premium because obviously you're not in Japan, but definitely it gets past my expectations, and I'm really looking forward to putting some electronics in this. I wanted to put the Masami electronic ECU and brushless motor in it, but I couldn't really justify it at the time. But I will put some hobby wing in this, and then we'll run it around the track as soon as the weather improves. But I absolutely love it, and the build experience and the quality, and it could potentially be a new genre of RC cars where it's vintage looking with much more modern underpinnings. The plastics in this, the composite plastics, some of the more advanced buggy features that you get put into this, it's just brilliant, and I really like it. It's so much better looking than the cab forward stuff. Now granted, it might not be the perfect track weapon, but a highly capable vintage looking buggy that's easy to build, is very strong, has a lot going for it, and it definitely beat my expectations. Right, let's move on to number 4. Number 4 is these from FMS, particular this, the Power Wagon. Absolutely beautiful. I reviewed this on the show about 3 or 4 months ago, and it pushed the bar forward. Not only is it highly capable, 2-speed transmission, portal axles on such a small thing, and it also is brilliant to drive. They've really got the actual smoothness for crawling, and you can modify the life out of them, and there's lots of option parts that you can buy now. Now they've just released another version of it, which is the Max Smasher. Now this is a bit of a monster truck, but basically what's underneath is almost identical, same sort of chassis, portal axles, 2-speed, so personal choice, depends what you want. But you can also, because the price points are not stupidly high, you can modify these as much as you want. I mean, this one I've painted up myself and changed the color of it, but you can swap around, put new wheels on it, you can put new motors in it, you change the running gear, you can get all metal links, all kinds of crazy stuff. But for the UK, they're brilliant for indoors. You can set up a little crawler course indoors in your front room and you can have hours of fun. Or you could go for 2 of these monster trucks, set up a monster truck kind of ramps and stuff, and then race each other. And being that they're so small, they're brilliant for indoor use, and you're not going to break anything. And, you know, they're not crazy fast, so you can control them. So I must admit, these are brilliant, and you can get replacement parts easy enough. So it's got everything you need. And I have to say, FMS absolutely smashing it this year with some brilliant RC offerings. Number 5 is quite an obvious one. It's this, the Mercedes-Benz C11 from Tamiya on the Group C chassis. And we haven't seen one of these for quite a while. I got it in mainly for the show, but yes, I really fell in love with it. It is absolutely beautiful. Now, I had my Phantom Pan car, and that scale is obviously smaller, so I was like, oh, I'll get it on the show. I do like my Pan cars, but it definitely surpassed my expectations, and a lot of you really like this. I got so much positive feedback about the C11, and the frustration that there was just a limited run, and they kind of gone, really. I'm not sure whether there's going to be more coming in on this. I would hope so, but I did hear that they just weren't going to do any more. So the only sort of downside is they're quite limited. I haven't checked to see whether you can just buy them online or whether you have to buy from a scalper, but they are beautiful. I do love the chassis, very easy to build. The body for this one was quite easy to paint up, being it's all pretty much one color apart from a little bit of black. So quite an easy balanced kit, but stunning and very different. So definitely beat my expectations. The only thing that I think Tamiya should have done is put a driver cockpit in it, but I've got one to put in it, but I just haven't got around to doing it. So the C11, hopefully we will see more of these kits become available, because I know a lot of you would like it. There is some quite nice aftermarket parts you can get for this. This has got some upgrades on it with the rear diffuser and the metal upright for the rear spoiler, and a few little extra bits and pieces. So there is some really nice upgrades available for this one as well. So there you go, that's the C11. Number 6 is this, the Thunder Dragon. Well, there's two parts to this. The first one is we finally got the Thunder Dragon at last, and it was like the one left out in the cold where we got all the other ones. So we finally got the Thunder Dragon on a re-release. So that's part of it. But the other side of it is the carbon fiber chassis upgrade that I just did. That was absolutely brilliant. I really enjoyed it. Now, it's not a turnkey solution, unfortunately. You have to put some effort into it, but it really lifts it and makes it much more interesting. Now, the Pro one that I have here stretches the wheelbase out a little bit, which means it's a little bit more tricky, as in you have to get the correct prop shaft for it. But it takes the looks of a vintage, so if you want to go like vintage racing, you can actually do that. It makes it very stiff, and it's also very different. Now, whether you'll be allowed to race it is another thing, but I really liked it, and the quality and the precision of all the carbon fiber parts all bolts together really well. My only caveat to that is you have to find all the parts yourself to put it together. Now, I think a lot of you are going to think it's more trouble than it's worth. So to the people that actually make these, I would recommend a turnkey solution where you just buy it and it has all the bits and pieces, all the hardware that you need, the spacers, and I think you will sell loads more, as the quality of this is beautiful and it's really cool. And being that you offer 3 different versions of it, so yeah, that is another one. Not only that, but the kit itself. Number 7 is the MJX Hypergo. Well, I'll explain. Now, there is this version, which is the crazy fast one, which is bonkers from the brushless aspect of it and what it is. But me personally didn't like the look of it. But I really love the look of this one here, which is, I don't know, it's just a Hypergo. This is the H164, which looks like this. I was really impressed with the basic one. It was really tough. I couldn't break it. I jumped it off the roof and all kinds of stuff, and it was really, really good. But then they brought this one out, and this one is much faster. So what I've done, and what you're looking at here, is this is all the chassis aspects of this one with the body of this one. Now, obviously, that's a personal thing. It doesn't affect changing the look of it, doesn't really change the actual performance of it. The chassis are pretty much the same. It's all just how you bolt the actual top on. This has this quick release system, so you have to kind of take some parts off of it to actually make it work. But underneath this is basically this. So it's got all the extra things like a metal bumper and stuff like that. But this chassis and this performance is brilliant. And I take it out and I just drive it and I enjoy it, really. But because I like this look and the color scheme, I put this body on it. So this definitely was well above my expectations. Now, I must admit, a lot of these ready to run sort of Banggood special kind of cars, the improvements and the quality is getting better and better and better. So you can't just take a brush and whitewash them all and go, they're all Chinese junk. That's completely not the case. There is some absolute gems out there now, and even the sort of like middle of the range is getting better and better, and you're getting more and more for your money. But this for me was just brilliant, and I love it that you can just throw in pretty much any kind of 2S battery you want, or 3S, and drive it, and it's super fast, super tough, and very reliable. And then obviously parts wise, they're really easy to get hold of parts. So that is my number 7. Number 8 is this, the 3S Armor Infraction. Now, why is this on my better than expected? Well, out of the box, this one is totally stock. I've done absolutely nothing to this, and I think that's a big part of it, that it is just hits that sweet spot. Now, we all have that thing about more, but you get to a point where you get diminishing returns for more power, bigger, because you have negative aspects to that. Now, I've got my X-Max, for instance, and it is crazy fast and it's massive, but it has some downsides. It's very difficult to drive it when there's young people around. It's crazy heavy. It's really big. So you have to kind of take that into account when you're driving it. When the battery goes flat, you've got to drag it back to your car. All those kind of connotations for it. You've got to charge up 2 batteries and things like that. Whereas this, I think, hits that real sweet spot. It's big enough and crazy fast enough to have a blast. It absolutely flies. You can drift it. It's really tough, but it's not too small, it's not too big. You know, you can take it places, you can just put it in the car, you can carry it quite easily. It's very tough. So it just ticks all the boxes in the sweet spots. It looks amazing. It looks very much like the big 6S version, but from a price point of view, you can pick this up and just drive it for about £385. So it's not in the £700 bracket, and then your batteries are another 150. It runs on 3S, which is not crazy expensive from a battery point of view. So you can have a few of those without spending £200. You know, like buying X-Max batteries, you've got to buy 2, and then obviously you want to have 2 sets. So before you know it, you spend another £200 odd pound. So you get a lot for your money, and that's what I really love about it. It's gorgeous looking, the quality's there, and it ticks so many boxes, and that's why I still have it. Now, from an upgrade point of view, yes, you can upgrade these and do bits and pieces, but to be quite honest with you, it's so capable out of the box. I love it, I must admit. It's beautiful, very different. Now, a lot of you will probably think, yeah, but aren't you a Tamiya kind of fan? I have different cars for different things, and this is something that I drive. I don't care if I scratch it, I'm not bothered about that. I do look after it, and I give it a bit of a clean when I finish with it, but it's got scuff marks on it, and I just drive it and I enjoy it, but I don't worry about it. So it's very different to sort of restoring a vintage buggy or something like that. So that is my Armour 3S. I can highly recommend it. Just epic. Number 9, well, it's going to definitely be on the list this year, isn't it? It's this Funkyo Show, the re-released Mid. Probably, for me, this year's top release. What do you think? Comment below, let me know. Do you think it's the top release of the year for the vintage re-re's, or do you think maybe the Pro Cat? That seems to be very popular. What do you reckon? But for me, I think it's nailed it. Price, yes, it's not an entry-level thing, but they've gone back, they've gone over it. You get a belt tensioner, you can run brushes straight from it, so it's had upgraded driveline. The quality of the materials is excellent. They've upgraded things like the dust cover for the belts, so they've sprinkled some new love on it. The rear spoiler is the hard plastic one, so it's going to last a little bit longer. It's beautiful, it's absolutely gorgeous and great quality. So when you put all those things together, and if you want to take it and run it, it's going to perform beautifully. So that is my number 9 of what I think is absolutely beautiful. And if you haven't got one already, I would definitely recommend getting one, and hopefully we will see another one, maybe the long wheelbase one, from GeForce Show soon. Also, there seem to be more and more parts turning up for these. There's lots of carbon chassis and stuff starting to arrive, so I think some extra hop-ups are starting to appear from other companies, which is always a good sign. I've got it on the vintage tyres here. Obviously that's not what comes in the kit. Right, moving on to number 10. And at number 10, it's this. This is a TC01 that's converted to a rally car, but it's not the TC01 that is in my list. Even though it's pretty good chassis, it's the body. This is Killer Bodies, already painted, already put together. I was blown away by this. The amount of time, money, and effort it must take to produce this, and then to sell it at that price point, I was really happy with it. The quality is excellent. I kid you not, it's got all light buckets, all the decals on it, wing mirrors, aerial that I've almost destroyed, intakes, big spoiler around the back, it's got exhausts. You can't really go wrong. So if you struggle with your painting, I can highly recommend taking a look at the Killer Bodies stuff. It's really nice. Now they do it in kit form as well, and I would say it's pretty much on par with what you'd expect from Tamiya, apart from all the extra options that you wouldn't get, like the window wipers, the aerial, the intakes, the spoiler and the exhaust and stuff like that. Those little bolt-on extras, and then the light buckets. Yes, you do see them on some Tamiyas, but not all of them. But the amount of detail that you get is brilliant. So if you're looking for a body, now this is my driver, so I don't care if it gets scratched because I just bought it like this. You just plonk it on and away you go. And then if you destroy it, you just buy another one. So I must admit, I wasn't expecting much, but looking at it now, and if I put it into my collection, I don't think you would notice that it wasn't one that I'd actually built myself. This is my number 11, a bit unofficial as this wasn't been released this year. This is a vintage one that I got on the show, but I absolutely loved it and I can highly recommend it. And it's this, the Nissan R91CP. Beautiful. It's basically a model that you can drive as an RC. Now the body is not for the faint-hearted. It is quite a challenge, this one, because you can't mix the red, the white and the blue. They've got to be, you know, completely separate, so it's very easy to get ghosting. And this line around the middle is a challenge because it doesn't really exist on the body. You have to actually do it yourself. And then you have a driver cockpit, but it's well worth it. This is beautiful, but it's a total challenge to paint up. But once it's done, it's gorgeous. So I have to say, this beats my expectations of this kit 100%. And if you are lucky enough to be able to get hold of one of these to paint up yourself, I highly recommend it. And the last one, what's this, 12? I had to give them an honourable mention as I think it was really good what they did. Yes, I have some issues with the scale and everything, but it was Horizon Hobbies did this with Lossy, and it's the JRX2 Mini. Now, there's no reason for them to go out of their way to do this, and they actually produced this. Now, unfortunately, this would have been right at the top of my list if this was 1/10, as it's not. And that's the only downside. It's really what's it for. It's more if you're a vintage collector and you just love the old vintage stuff, and for driving around in the garden a little bit. It's not exactly that fast, it's a little brushed, but it's a great bit of fun. And hopefully this is going to open the floodgates a little bit, that we see more vintage stuff from Lossy, as they've got some great cars and buggies that they could produce. Just in 1/10, please guys. But it was lovely to see it, and I had to get one. I don't really do much with it. I drive it every now and again. It's got a few little scratches, but really it's just a lovely little thing. So there you go. That's my 10/12 highlights of 2022. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, hit that bell notification, as there's tons more RC content coming to you soon. And the last one, what's this, 12? I had to give them an honourable mention as I think it was really good what they did. Yes, I have some issues with the scale and everything, but it was Horizon Hobbies did this with Lossy, and it's the JRX2 Mini. Now, there's no reason for them to go out of their way to do this, and they actually produced this. Now, unfortunately, this would have been right at the top of my list if this was 1/10, as it's not. And that's the only downside. It's really what's it for. It's more if you're a vintage collector and you just love the old vintage stuff, and for driving around in the garden a little bit. It's not exactly that fast, it's a little brushed, but it's a great bit of fun. And hopefully this is going to open the floodgates a little bit, that we see more vintage stuff from Lossy, as they've got some great cars and buggies that they could produce. Just in 1/10, please guys. But it was lovely to see it, and I had to get one. I don't really do much with it. I drive it every now and again. It's got a few little scratches, but really it's just a lovely little thing. So there you go. That's my 10/12 highlights of 2022. Thanks very much. Please like and subscribe, and if you haven't already, hit that bell notification, as there's tons more RC content coming to you soon.